Svadhistana Chakra, which literally means the seat of the self. But that's a self with a capital S, not the ego or your physical body. Sva means self, but you see behind written Atman. And Atman, that is your essence or your true essence, your soul. As a result of the society that we live in, we are all emancipated to a certain level. We are all educated, developed intellectually, but we also live in a very challenging society in the sense that we are surrounded by many, many shallow material things that have taken center stage in this society for commercial reasons mostly. As a result, from the moment that we are born, we more and more build our world upon those superficial impressions, materialistic principles, and we lose connection before we have even had a chance to develop soul awareness, which as a baby you have, but it's not developed, so it cannot express itself, it cannot manifest. As a baby you have, but before you even have a chance to manifest the soul, it is already overshadowed by a very thick layer of static, a very thick layer of materialism. As a result of this, we live in a very restless society. Because people who have no self-consciousness, no consciousness of their soul, they are, to a certain extent, satisfied and happy with their materialistic life. But if you ask them honestly, you will eventually conclude that there is a hole in their heart. There is a gap. There is an emptiness. Even when people have everything they want, they have a nice house, nice car, steady income, growing every year, healthy family, 2 vacations every year, but something is lacking, something is missing. It is this what is missing, consciousness of the self. The realization of what you are here for. What is the purpose of life and you in it? Those are very essential questions, existential questions that many people just cannot answer. And if they are able to answer it, they say, well, to get rich, I'm here to get rich, to succeed, to make a career, to take care of my family in a materialistic way. But far removed from people's dharma, from people do not know what their vocation is. They focus on what they have learned from society, from parents, from their education. And they have no other way because they have no connection. They have no other way than to follow that. Maybe you can remember as a child, if you look back at your childhood, the first years of your life you had no self-consciousness. Most people, when they look back, they have memories starting from 7, 8 years old, not further back. Only people who had traumatic experiences as a baby are capable of memory going back beyond the age of 7. But most children, if you live a relatively happy life, stable, secure, your memory doesn't go much further back than 8, 7. The developmental stage of Svadhistana Chakra is, not by coincidence, between 7 and 14 years of age. That is indeed the period in which you start becoming aware of yourself. That is the period also in which you start developing attraction to the other sex. Or if you have a homosexual tendency, of course, you start becoming attracted to the same sex. But you start becoming attracted to other people. Erotically also. Before that, in general, it is non-existent. This period, same as with the first 7 years, is all very important, of course, that you go through that developmental stage as harmoniously as possible, to have a healthy development of self-perception, so that you develop self-respect also, dignity. And hopefully connection with the soul. You know, children in that age, they have dreams about what they want to be when they are adult. But the years that follow, because of increasing amount of static that is put upon them, they will more and more conform to what is demanded from them. Very often children have dreams of what they want to do, and it is denied them by their parents, who say, no, you must not become this, you must go in that direction, you must become a teacher, or you must become a lawyer, or you must... Interestingly, if you are lacking in this respect, and who is not, most of us are lacking in this respect, very interestingly, all you have to do is create sattva in Svadhisthana Chakra. Then the process of self-awareness, with a capital S, will start to develop. So this is what you see with all people who start practicing yoga, if it is real yoga, that is focusing on developing sattva on all levels of your being. This means that even if you had a very disturbed developmental stage in that period between 7 and 14, all you have to do is install sattva. At an older age, you have a choice. You are not depending on circumstances anymore, or at least hopefully. You will come to the point that you can more and more control your life and more your circumstances. So you install more and more sattva, and in this particular chakra, Svadhisthana Chakra, that will lead to self-awareness. Whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, you better not practice yoga, because you cannot avoid it. That kind of development comes naturally. Maybe you have already noticed in this respect developments taking place, and that process will not stop. Once you take the lid off the pot, you cannot put the lid back on anymore. Your development can slow down, but it can never be reversed. That is your fate. You're doomed. In other words. So better to go forward as fast as you can. Because there are, of course, a lot of obstacles. You will come across maybe realizations that you don't like, and that can really put people down, make people depressed. But like we have discussed before, it is useless to focus on what you don't like. It's better to focus on what you like and emphasize that and work on the development in that direction. Because not liking parts of your existence, of your self with capital S, is not possible because it's divine, it's perfect. Every time you have ideas of dissatisfaction with yourself, it is pure ego that is bothering you. It's pure superficial. It's of no use, and it is destructive, in fact, to focus on these kind of things. Okay. The subtle element of this chakra is water, so we call it the water center. It's related to emotions, especially desires, jealousy, greed, lower emotions. And maybe you don't feel any of that consciously, but statistically, you know that the moon has a gravitational force towards water, right? High tide and low tide in the oceans are caused by the gravitation of the moon. Gravitational pull of the moon. Considering that you exist for more than 80% out of water, that gravitational pull of the moon must have an influence on you. Many people don't realize this. They don't feel anything, because it is, of course, subtle. But then again, it's not so subtle at all. If you look at the statistics, most of suicides take place during the full moon period. So during full moon and the days around full moon. Look at the word, the origin of the word lunatic also. Where does that come from, a lunatic? You are temporarily insane because of the moon. Strange as that may seem, but it clearly shows that although many people don't consciously notice, the water center is very strongly affected. Your emotions are very much emphasized during the full moon period. You have to respect this. Knowing, I'm going to say something that you will not like, but knowing the influence of water, you must stop drinking so much water all the time. Drink only when you are thirsty. Not because health freaks have said that you have to drink 5 liters of water every day. And you keep running up and down to the toilet, etc. A couple of years ago when I was in training, nobody brought water to the yoga class. That is really something of the last 10 years or so. Of course it is good to drink water, so I'm not saying that you shouldn't. But simply think about it. Be aware of this. In the Hatha Yoga Pradipika it is written that you have to stay 1 bow shot away from water. It is because of this. We will come across that. We will soon start reading the 1st and 2nd chapters. We are reading the second chapter already. We will come across that sutra. And I think I mentioned it in the last week or the week before. About fire also. You have to stay 1 bow shot away from fire. You have to stay 1 bow shot away from rocks. And Brian showed me a version of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika that says if you are too close to rocks, then stones can fall on your head. But that is a little bit a shortcut to explain the sutra. The real meaning is that you have to have enough room for your aura. I have explained that. But stone or rock influences your earth center. So the same way, water is influencing your water center. So it does directly influence your functioning as a human being. Even though you are not aware of that directly, consciously, but especially when it comes to water, also fire, we will come to that in the afternoon, especially when it comes to water, psychologic research shows that the influence of water is very strong. Most suicides are committed around that time of the full moon, but women who do not use birth control, most of the times they menstruate around full moon. Have you noticed that? So the pool of water is very strong, and simply you have to respect that. Be aware of that in the first place. That is why we are talking about this. Why did I say something about drinking water? Because water influences your harmony in the water center. So you are sitting here doing your exercises, physically, mentally. You create harmony, and then you take a big swig of water, and theoretically you are destroying the harmony in the water center by doing that. You don't really feel it, but statistics show, as I said before, statistics show that there indeed is an influence. So, just be aware of that. Vegetarian diet. This is an important phrase in the handout. Vegetarian diet is instrumental in making harmony in this center in particular, but in the whole body in general. Why? Because plants are sattvic most, while meats, for example, are always rajasic. They always cause rajas. It is good to try to be vegetarian for a period in your life because it has huge implications. Not only for the practice of non-violence, but just for the functioning and the development of your being. It is instrumental. it's good to try it out and see how it affects you.
Ron?
Yeah, Thomas.
When you say vegetarian, do you mean vegan? Or cheese or eggs? Is that okay? There's so many different types of vegetarianism.
Yeah, everybody will have to decide how far to go. If you become a vegan, that is a little bit radical. That means that you don't wear woolen clothes anymore, you don't wear leather shoes anymore or coats. You don't use any animal product at all anymore. There are indeed various grades of vegetarianism. When it comes to milk products also, you have to ask yourself, what is milk? Milk is for babies. There is no animal in the animal kingdom that drinks milk after outgrowing the stage of baby. Only human beings. Sooner or later I will send you a very long article about this, about milk and how it affects a human being. A very interesting research has been done to the whole milk industry. You just have to read that. How far do you go? Everybody has to decide. Try it out, with or without milk, with or without eggs. But always determine for yourself how it feels, what it is doing with you. If you feel that it's harming you, you have to make some adjustments. Okay, like with Muladhara Chakra, you have here the Tamatras, Jnanendriya, Karmendriya. So, when you are in Sattva, when there is Sattva in the water center, in Svadhistana Chakra, it is the taste that manifests. Why the taste? Because the taste is a sense. And with Sattva increasing in you, your senses become more agile. Why? Because Sattva is inherently observation. Observation is inherently Sattva. You see this with children who daydream. Maybe you remember as a child you were daydreaming. You remember daydreaming? Those were the most happy moments of your life. Why? Because daydreaming only occurs when you are in Sattva. Your eyes are open but you don't see. You are on another plane when you daydream. It is like a higher form of meditation, but uncontrolled. And the moment that you think, hey, I'm daydreaming, nice, you fall down from that condition. It's gone, it's done. So when there is Sattva, in Muladhara Chakra your smell is manifesting. That means indeed that your smell is stronger than people who have no Sattva. In the case of Svadhisthana Chakra, that is the taste. You become more sensitive towards food, you will see. Why? Because of Sattva in Svadhisthana Chakra. Many people who start practicing yoga, they naturally make adjustments to what they eat. Their taste changes also, becomes more refined, and you stop eating things that you have eaten your whole life. You start eating other things that you've never eaten before, not because books say so or because teachers say so, simply because your taste changes. And generally what you see is a shift from the unnatural foods, from chemicals, from processed foods, more and more towards natural foods. You will shift more from white flour to whole wheat flour. You will shift from sugar, white sugar, to honey. You will simply start more healthy foods, naturally. Not because they are healthier, just because it feels, tastes better. People who are very stiff, you can see, when you look in the street, you see people walking. Some people walk like as if they're walking on feathers. They're very light. Their movements are gracious, supple. Other people are very stiff, and they walk like as if they are made out of wood. A little bit ungracious. That is because of tamas in this center. That is because of lacking of sattva in this center. That brings us to the conclusion also that simply increasing sattva will lead to more flexibility and more strength also. Haven't you felt yet that when you go up and down the stairs you feel lighter? Instead of taking the steps one at a time, you start taking 2 steps at a time and it feels really good. Haven't you noticed? You do become lighter. You do become more agile and more flexible. The people who are very stiff and move very stiffly, they have an issue here that will eventually manifest into a disease. There are emotions that are blocking the chakra, so there's an emotional issue. There are also issues with sexuality and desires, frustrated desires. A rajas characteristic, people who are generally rajas, is addiction. Emotion, addiction, but also creativity. So, if you contemplate on this, you see this issue in artists especially. Singers, musicians, the people who are creative are often emotionally unstable. That's not because they are weak. That is because their creativity is linked to the water center, but their emotionality is also linked to the water center. And as a yogi, you will also have those characteristics that artists have, with the difference that you have control. So what artists are lacking is the control tool that a yogi has. What you see with most artists, if they are real artists, not the fake ones, the real artists who are artists because of their vocation, because of their creativity, because of rajas in Svadhistana Chakra, those people very often have very tragic lives, dramatic lives. They have tragic relationships. They have issues with drugs and alcohol abuse. They're very unstable. But that instability, that is also their source for creativity. So the ideal artist is one that eventually learns to bring all this under control, like a yogi. Then you become a brilliant artist. Yeah? You see this with scientists also. Science is something that you can learn theoretically. The real science is based upon your sensitivity. Real scientists, like Einstein, people with brilliant insights, people with coming to brilliant inventions, they are like yogis. Normal scientists simply do their work based upon what has already been invented. Normal scientists base their work on what has already been established and realized. Real scientists, they come with totally new things, totally new insights, totally new inventions that are revolutionary. So science and spirituality combined leads to genius. Genius is not something that comes from a book. Everybody can become a scientist, but to become a revolutionary scientist, to become a brilliant scientist, there has to be an element of spirituality. Sattva, that is what it is about. So if you look at how those people behave, you can see that they are actually like little children. If you read about Einstein, how he walked around on the campus, people were laughing at him. Because he would use his umbrella to count all the stalks in the fence. Or he would count the tiles that he was walking on to find patterns, like children do. But this is that playful attitude that maintains the creativity, and the playful attitude also keeps the energy circulating. As soon as you become serious, your energy circulation is blocked, then you lose your brilliance, you lose your genius. So pay attention when you read about people who are genius. You will see that they have this childish behavior. And that is not good or bad, it's just as it is. I should actually say that it is good rather than bad. People laugh at it and say it's childish. Childish. The word childish in itself has a very negative connotation. But childlike maybe, better word. Childlike behavior is very powerful. Because the spontaneity in your behavior leads to passion, leads to energy. So when you become an adult and you start behaving like many people tell you to, because you are expected to, when you start oppressing that urge to be playful and childlike, because it is foolish, you also lose your spontaneity, you lose your vital energy, in fact. And Carl Jung has written about that. Emotion is the chief source of all becoming conscious. There can be no transforming of darkness into light and apathy into movement without emotion. You understand this? That is what we do as yogis. We try to transform darkness into light, and we try to transform apathy into movement by playing with energy, manipulating and stimulating energy. And this is vital, this is essential. You want to be happy and have a fulfilling life, then allow the child to exist in you. Do not oppress it anymore because other people have told your whole life that you should behave like a grown-up. Funny, huh? Did you expect this? Somebody telling you to behave like a child again? This is powerful. This is very powerful. You make yourself vulnerable. That is the big problem here. As a child, you grow up and you become hurt many times, so you stop exposing yourself. You stop making yourself vulnerable. As an adult, having developed intellect, you go back. You consciously make yourself vulnerable again because that vitality that comes from it is much more valuable than the exposure to vulnerability. You understand that? The only thing is, since you have developed intellect, you will become more selective. You will become a little bit more careful. But you still expose yourself. And when you get hurt, you do not react by vowing to never go out and express yourself anymore. You react by saying, that person doesn't understand life. And you feel compassion, you feel pity for the person for missing such a wonderful characteristic. For the rest, you become selective, you become careful when you express yourself, how you express yourself, but you do not oppress that anymore. It is too valuable. That is your capital in life, much more valuable than the money you can earn. It makes you feel to be alive. That is wonderful. You don't need to go to the Amazon anymore and go into the jungle to experience excitement and to feel alive. You feel alive here, in the concrete jungle of Seoul, for example, or New York or Amsterdam. Why? Because of this. That is real, not superficial. But this is a paradox, but actually it is not. Yoga is not oppression of emotions. Do not make that mistake. Because emotions are there as a guide to tell you something. But as a yogi, you try to control your emotions. And controlling and oppressing are opposites. Although initially they seem to be the same, they are opposites. Oppression leads to blocking energy. You become sick as a result of that eventually in the long term. It leads to tamas in your whole being. Control is simply an intelligent approach. Rather than allowing your emotions to explode and that you function in a very instinctive way, cover yourself. That you function in an instinctive way, you try to stay on top of the emotions. So you observe them and you try to do something constructive with them. Because you know every time when you become emotional, you explode in anger or whatever emotion is overwhelming you, it always leads to regret. It always leads you to doing things or saying things that lead to more disturbance in your life, that lead to you making mistakes also that you regret later. And to avoid that, you try to control. You try to control your initial instinctive emotional reaction. You try to transform the energy. Not oppress it, you try to transform it. do something constructive with it. You draw a conclusion from it, you react accordingly on an intellectual way, on an intellectual level, and you have a totally opposite situation now occurring. Rather than the emotion leading to very undesirable, destructive situation, it leads to you taking charge of a situation. And you find a constructive way out in which not more conflicts arise, you solve a conflict. While usually when you react emotionally, it leads to another conflict, or a bigger conflict, more conflict. You understand the difference between oppression and controlling? I've heard from several of you already that situations that occurred before that led to anger or other emotions, that you already feel that you are more in control of that. That is good. That is good. That is important. Important development.
Right, I have a question. I don't really understand. It seems kind of talking about childlike behavior
Yes.
and control of emotions don't really seem to go together.
Yes, they do. The difference, as a child, you have no control because you have not developed intellect. So your parents control you and your teachers control you. They are your intellect. They are your Ajna Chakra. I am her Ajna Chakra. She's doing things according to her instincts and there is no control. Whatever control there is comes from me. Children are exactly the same. As an adult, you incorporate all those qualities in you. So the child in you is there, but there is also the intellect.
Yeah, I think I understand. It just seems really...
It seems a paradox,
Yeah,
it is,
paradox.
kind of. But yoga is full of paradoxes. That is the duality. So the solution to the duality, of course, is the middle way. We have to find the middle way. Not left, not right, in the middle. So there's always a compromise. Not in a bad way. Compromise very often has a negative connotation. But that is life. We live in the duality and we are always looking for the middle, actually. Because either left or right always leads to disturbance. That's the golden middle way of the Buddha. So you find this middle way in many philosophies also. It's like walking on a razor blade, on the edge of a razor blade. In the beginning that's very difficult. You either fall to the left or to the right, but practice makes perfect. So you play. Playing is crucial in life. When you stop playing, tamas occurs, your vital energy dies down. This is what you see happening in people, in adults. People become adults and suddenly they become serious. Everything is serious. That is killing. It's absolutely killing. So, play when you're alone. If you are not ready to be exposed. Play when you are with the people you trust. And slowly start building a basis again of playing. Make fun. Look at Faulty Towers. You know Faulty Towers? No? BBC with John Cleese. It just started again. BBC, what is it called? BBC Entertainment. If you have BBC Entertainment on your TV, every Tuesday evening, Faulty Towers. This is brilliant. You know, John Cleese? He's acting so foolish and so stupid, but if you hear him talking, he talks like a yogi. He understands life, he understands people. He understands the importance of playing. English humor is priceless, Absolutely marvelous. Why is humor so important? Comedy? Because it frees up your energy. It confronts you constantly with your limitations, with your own stupidity, but with a smile. Very powerful in a spiritual way. You understand that? If you don't have BBC on your TV, you have to get a dish, satellite dish, Sky TV. It's the same, costs the same as cable TV or other TV. But at least you can watch comedy. Not the stupid comedy. If you look at the Korean channels, they have those stupid programs, always the same faces, always the same people, always the same faces, and they just make a lot of noise. That is not humor. Huh?
Slapstick humor.
Yeah, slapstick, not even that. There's no philosophy behind it, there's no depth in it also. Just a little bit shouting and acting stupid. Well, you could argue that they are behaving like children maybe, but that is not quality TV. You put 5 people on an island and they just drink soju and eat octopus. You fill an hour of TV program with it. It costs nothing. It doesn't take any preparation. There is no script. And you put it on the TV, nationwide. That is not TV. This is not comedy. We can do that too. We can make a yoga slapstick. Do you understand the power of comedy? It is absolutely marvelous. Everybody needs a dose of slapstick comedy on a regular basis. You know Cheech and Chong? Cheech and Chong, you have to see Cheech and Chong. Up in smoke, still smoking. Oh my God. Cheech and Chong.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When it comes to dealing with some of the more consuming and negative emotions like jealousy and envy and desire,
Yeah.
so would you say that just the practice of asanas can help you transform these emotions that exist already, or is there more application involved where if, let's say there's a kind of situation or person that evokes, jealousy or envy in you,
Yeah.
and then it's been going on for a long time, then would you find after continuous yoga practice that it will start to, dissolve?
Absolutely.
Or is it something like when it comes up, you have to do something consciously to transform that?
It's a combination. It's a choice that you make, but you will see, as a result of your yoga practice, your emotions will be less violent. Because you become an observant human being. And when you observe something, it doesn't exist anymore. That sounds strange, but we will come back to that later. When you have a problem, it's only a problem as long as you are not observing it. You are engaged to try to understand the problem and to solve it and find a solution. The moment that you take distance from it, surrender, and you start observing it, you understand the essence of the problem, then it's not a problem anymore. Because the moment that you understand it, you have the solution too. You have the answer to the question. So, because you are becoming a more and more observant human being, as a result of your increasing sattva, you are not overwhelmed anymore, in general. Of course, there are still violent situations, very strong situations that can occur suddenly, but in general, you are much more in charge, actually. The moment that things happen, you already anticipate. And you anticipate the emotion that will ensue from it, and you will you will be ahead of things, kind of, and as a result of that, it will not be so strong as it used to be. Emotions are strong for two reasons. One is that we are just subject to them, and they just overtake us, which is in many people's case. Another one, and that's actually worse, is when we are proud of our emotions, and we say, I have a right to be emotional. I have a right to explode in anger and whatever. There are also people like that. They are proud of their emotion. They think it is part of their heritage, and they do not realize that every time it only brings a lot of misery and trouble and upheaval in their lives, and not only their lives, in other people's lives also. Our approach, yoga is in fact intellectual approach, kind of, but combined with higher insight. Yeah? Yoga, the way we do, that is absolutely not fit for young people. You have to be at least 18 and have some education. But even that can be too young still. Because it is appealing to many faculties in you that are not fully developed yet in young people. It's difficult to understand also what it is all about. Yeah? Other questions?
In your handout, you mentioned downfall of religion sculptures, which resulted in the lowering Kundalini to Muladhara Chakra. Could you say more details about that?
Can you speak a little louder?
In your note, you mentioned that before the Kundalini was located in Svadhistana Chakra, and then some kind of downfall happened, which lowered the Kundalini to Muladhara Chakra, where it is now.
Yeah.
What's the downfall?
The downfall, that is a process that is mentioned in all religious scriptures, in all philosophies also. That is the condensation. From the moment of the Big Bang, we don't know what happened before that, but from the moment of the Big Bang, there has been a downfall taking place. We call it the downfall in the Bible, but it is a condensation of energy. Everything is energy. Now, after the Big Bang, there were no planets and stars yet, only gases. Those gases slowly but certainly solidified as a result of the downfall, that is the condensation taking place, and more and more developed into solid matter, leading eventually to rock and human beings existing out of all kinds of different atoms. As a human being, children are very spiritual, but they don't manifest yet. It needs time to ripen and develop. Human beings, thousands of years ago, were very spiritual human beings. But we had no intellect, we had no education, and because we started to consciously think, we were not capable to explain the things that we intuitively realized. So we became superstitious. So we started to distort divinity, understanding religiosity, understanding the concept of God also in a very distorted way. Why? Because we try to understand it consciously. Intuitively, feeling, we can feel godliness, divinity. But how do you explain that? That is the problem. But as a result of the increasing process of condensation, we have become less intuitive. We start functioning more and more on lower levels of our being. And if you look at the chakras, the crown chakra is this wide, Ajna chakra a little bit, and they become smaller and smaller in size, their energy field. And so you see there, you can consider that to be a condensation of energy also. So the lowest level of your being is your pure instincts, your fear, your sexuality, your urge to procreate, which lies in the lowest chakra. Every time you go higher, you elevate your consciousness closer towards divinity. That is basically what this is about. So practicing yoga, you consciously reverse this process of the downfall. That comes back also to your question just before about emotions. Emotions occur in lower chakras. And when emotions are very strong, that is simply an explosion of energy, Shakti energy, in one of the chakras. But as a result of your yoga practice, you practice asana, you practice meditation, concentration. Eventually we will do also energy control exercises. We started already actually with Kriya. As a result of that, you are constantly concentrating in the head, in Ajna Chakra. When you concentrate in Ajna Chakra all the time, you pull energy because you have only one amount of energy. It is either here or there. That is not true, of course. The reality is that it is spread, but it is mainly focused in the lower chakras, below the diaphragm, making us emotionally unstable people. When you are more and more focused in Ajna Chakra, automatically there is more energy here and less energy there. So when something happens, you will feel a stir of energy and there could be still an explosion, but most of the energy is here. So several things happen because there is less energy there and it is more sattvic. The rupture or the disruption is not so big as it usually was before. There is less energy, but at the same time, the emotion is less strong. At the same time, you are also aware of it. And if you continue to practice and you continue on this path of development, you will see also that you, rather than ending up in situations all the time, that is how most people live their lives. And in retrospect, you realize the situation you are in and you start cleaning up the mess that you made. Rather than living like that, you start anticipating things from happening. You start anticipating situations leading to an explosion of emotion. And because you develop that ability to foresee something happening, you can avoid it. You can choose to not let it turn into a situation you don't want to be in. And that is karma yoga. That is when you have developed mastership. Then you are in control of your life. And you do not make new karma anymore, or at least much less than before.
In that regard, does a yogi allow for serendipity? Just chance? Does a yogi?
What is the word? What does it mean? Serendipity. What does it mean?
Chance occasions, things that living.
Like opportunism? Is that like opportunism? Huh?
Not in a negative way. I mean,
Happenstance, maybe. Happenstance.
understanding that things happen outside. Things happen in your life outside of your control.
Yeah.
And a yogi recognizes this and allows for it. And
You choose. If it is important and you judge it to be destructive, you choose not to let it occur. If you think it is not important, you let it manifest. But it doesn't affect you because you have judged it to be unimportant. You have one amount of energy and you have to become very efficient in the use of your energy. In the beginning, many people who develop on the path of yoga, they will lose more energy. in the first stage because you start to become aware of so many things and you start to pay attention to so many things. Eventually, you have to start becoming selective about what is important and what is not. And things that were important before then seem to be not so important at all. So you start, this is also a management technique actually. Focus only on those things that are important and urgent. That's maybe 5% of everything you are dealing with. Then, when that is done, you focus on the other things that are important, but not urgent. If you have time. That is maybe 20% of all the things that you are dealing with. The other 75% is neither important nor urgent, and usually they solve themselves. And you just let it go. So we have to learn to detach from many things. You cannot... Managers who do not understand this, and automatically that translates into actually everybody in life, but managers who do not understand this, they will end up in a burnout. They do their work very diligently for a couple of years, and they burn out. And they have to quit their job and find they have to find a position with less responsibility and pressure. So we do this in life. We have to do this in life too, as yogis. Yeah? Thomas?
One of your handouts said imbalance in the chakra.
Yeah.
These the problems would be reproductive organs, sexual difficulties, and menstrual problems.
Yeah.
It says sattva manifests itself in the bladder, and rajas manifests itself in the womb and the prostate.
Yeah.
So if you have an imbalance in the chakra, does that cause physical problems? And if it does,
Absolutely.
Balance it, it'll correct itself?
Yes, absolutely.
So like old men usually have prostate problems.
Yeah.
Is that just an imbalance in that chakra?
No. That is not just an imbalance. But when you are born, you are full of Shiva. That is why baby skin is so soft and moist and very shiny, healthy. Along the way of getting older, there is less Shiva and more Shakti. And Shakti is a heat energy. It is burning out. The aging process in people is the result of increasing Shakti levels and diminishing Shiva levels. So what you see with people is they are actually slowly, their cells are burning out. Literally. How do you call that in English? Oxidating. Yeah? These days you have many food supplements, antioxidants. Grape extracts and all kinds of herbs and plants and so have antioxidating power. When you look at older people, you will see that their skin becomes dry and wrinkled. However, if you look at older yogis, you will see that their skin is still moist and shiny. And there are, of course, certain processes taking place in people. In men, that is indeed something with the prostate that swells up with age. There is also an oxidating process going on. That is the result of increasing Shakti. And I think men who practice yoga regularly, also at older age, they will avoid having these kind of developments taking place. So if you just go along with time This is interesting. It's a good question, Thomas. Thank you for that. But very interestingly, you see many times in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, but also very much in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, there is always this mention of eternal youth, eternal life, implying actually that we can be forever young. That is related to this, actually. Of course, I've never seen anybody that 1,000 years old, but if you, when reading those kind of texts, you can at least come to the conclusion that if you take your energy control into your own hands, you can at least become considerably older in a very healthy condition. While people who are totally oblivious of this and just go with the flow of time, they just end up becoming more and more condensed, actually. You see people growing also, becoming bigger and heavier and becoming more and more sluggish, and people start to complain about this and about that. And that is a result of that oxidation process, that you can basically, theoretically, you could have eternal life. Only nobody is perfect enough to achieve that. But if you look at the Bible and other religious scriptures, there are those legends about people being 800-900 years old.
Methuselah.
Yeah, Methuselah.
Supposed to live 940 or something?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't believe that.
No, well, okay,
Right.
but where there is fire, where there is smoke, there is fire, right? Don't forget that our history doesn't go much further back than 5,000 years, simply because we didn't write down things before that. But there are many, many vague stories that go back maybe 40,000 years or even more. There are many stories that are still lingering around. We don't know exactly where they come from, but there is some element of truth in those stories. And it is, if it was only the Bible that would write about these kind of people being 900 years old, then you can be skeptical. But there are also stories in yoga and other religions about people being so old. So that must come from somewhere.
But it's just an exaggeration, right? Like you might have had some.
It's symbolical. Yes.
Okay.
It's
maybe,
symbolical.
maybe you had some man who lived to be 130. Maybe over the years that people added to his age. Maybe he was
That's
200
possible.
and he was 300.
Yeah, that's possible. But if you keep balance between Shiva and Shakti, life doesn't end. Only who is capable of doing that. But very interestingly, 10 years ago or so, they discovered a little guru in India by the name of Prahlajani, and he claimed that since he was 8 years old, he didn't eat nor drink.
Okay, I was just going to mention that.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the same guy. They had a Discovery Channel episode of this yogi who he never ate or drank. And,
Yes.
and I was thinking, okay, this is BS, but they put him in the hospital.
They did.
And they just watched him for a month. And he
Yeah,
never
24
ate or
hours a
drank.
day.
And he said he got all the nutrients from sunlight.
No, he
or
got,
something.
no,
He would just like the sun would.
he says he has a hole in his palate through which he drinks celestial energy, which is Shiva energy. When you understand a little bit more about energy control, etc., we will come to that before the end of June. What he is doing is just supplying his body with sufficient Shiva energy. And what he is doing also is described in the yoga scriptures, but nobody believes it. And indeed, nobody believed Prahlajani. 10 years ago, they did this. They put him in the hospital for 10 days. totally controlled circumstances. He didn't eat, he didn't drink, he didn't go to the toilet. They did find some development of liquid in his bladder, but that was again absorbed by his body. And so recently they have done the same again. They put him again in hospital then longer than they did 10 years ago. And same. But this guy is, nobody can do this. Nobody can not eat and drink. You cannot eat for a couple of days, but you cannot stop drinking for more than 2 or 3 days. And he just does that. That is only possible if you are totally sattvic. It's really funny. Did you see it?
Yeah, he looked like a typical yogi. I mean, his skin was kind of dark.
He's very dark, very big, bright eyes that just stare into emptiness. And he's just sitting there, and he has a very big head. Actually, he's a very small, tiny guy, but his head is very big and his body is very tiny. And it's really funny.
What's this guy's name?
Pralajani. Yeah, you just Google it and you will come up many articles, videos, and really, really interesting. So the question now is, how old will this guy become?
So how old is he now?
I think he is in his 80s, early 80s.
He claims not to have eaten since he was 8.
Yeah. When he was 8, he had some God realization, and ever since then he didn't eat. But if you look at his physical body, that is not even so far-fetched. I've seen dogs that didn't eat because the owners think that if you don't feed your dog, then it will not grow so much. And they have the same characteristics as he. Dogs that don't eat when they grow up in their baby stage, in their growing up stage, they have a big head and a very tiny body. And he has exactly that. He has a very big head and a very tiny body. It's almost from a comic book. Really fun. You have to see him.
I think I read somewhere, I don't remember where it was in the Pratipika, because I just was skimming it one day, and it said something like, try to rely less on external sources of like food and external sources of energy and more on internal sources of energy. I don't remember what it was though.
The more unbalanced you are, the more you need outside sources. You see as a developing yogi that your appetite is changing. With your increasing sattva, you need less food.
I remember when I read it though, it was like a while ago, I was like, well, it just sounds like a recipe for like anorexia or something. You know?
That is if you do not have the right condition. If you just force yourself not to eat because a book says that it is possible, but you have not had the training and you have not gone through the developments to come to the point that you are indeed sattvic enough, then you are just acting purely violent on yourself. You violate all the yamas in the process. So you have to follow your feeling. That is important. Do not just stop eating because the book tells you that it is possible. Just let it be a piece of information that if indeed you feel that there is less appetite, that you don't worry, but that you say, this is the result of my increasing sattva. So good, nice. It can also happen, and that is also written in the sutra, that in the beginning stages of your yoga practice you will actually become more hungry. Why? Because you are playing with energy. So you are at the beginning, before all the dust settles down and you start becoming very efficient, you are actually consuming more energy in the process. Just because you stir up everything. You become mentally also much more active as a result because you become much more aware. You start having all kinds of insights you didn't have before. That consumes a lot of energy in the beginning stages. But eventually the dust will settle down, you become more and more harmonious, and you will consume less energy as a result. So follow your feeling. If you do indeed feel you are more hungry than before, then eat more. You have to. Your body is asking for it. It means that it needs it. But the only thing maybe you could add to that is then try to make sensible choices about what you eat. Try to have more nutritious foods rather than just filling the stomach. But that's something everybody will find out for himself. Okay? 5-minute break, maybe, in the restroom.